Wow. Okay, everybody. Good to see you here. It's me, Dr. Whimsy, the sometimes reluctant oracle of Whimsy. And today we're doing a card reading. As you can see, I have it nicely set up for us. Hopefully, the sound is good for you as well. And I've been doing a lot of meditations and feeling all of the frustration and fear that a lot of a lot of the same fears that all of you have. And I've been making notes talking about what's coming for December. And so I thought we would go a little bit into what the energy is, and then we would throw some cards as well. We talked about the stages of grief, and we talked about the fact that we felt like Trump was undergoing some kind of stages of grief that had something to do with his medical reports, his medical records. And we had felt, based on some studies and meditations we had done, that he had possibly had up to 2 or more cardiac events, possibly had stents placed and problems post-stent a couple years later, possibly even an MI sometime around late November after the election of 2024. That was kind of how it felt in terms of Donald Trump. And we felt when we went into this energy that there was a kind of denial about it, a denial of what was happening to him, a denial about his continued need to go and have these medical reports done, whether it was on his cardiac health, but also on his mental and cognitive health as well. And all of that information, of course, is being given to his cabinet, which now appears to be actively part of some kind of a cover-up, as Donald Trump desperately tries to cover up, again, denial, because he's in this state of denial, trying to cover up any bad information about his health. We're talking about denial as the first stage of grief when a patient gets a bad diagnosis about their health. And then that goes into anger, anger, bargaining, etc. You know, um, and so part of that also that I feel as Donald Trump, I'll tell you the main feeling I have, and you can go ahead and put yourself in Trump's shoes as well using heart-centered remote viewing. If you are a student of HCRV, we meet Sundays on YouTube for members only at the Elders and Empaths level. We're now headed towards week 3 of the class, and we're going to be talking this Sunday, 5 p.m., about how one gets into a trance state, what allies you can use, whether it's in the plant kingdom, certain mantras, certain techniques you can use to help you get into that trance state so that you can be a great professional empath and maybe even do this for a living. It's a hell of a ride. It's an amazing career choice. But getting back to Donald Trump and how I feel as Donald Trump, when I put myself in the shoes of Donald Trump as a remote viewer, I feel my power slipping away. That is the main emotion I feel, is that I'm losing my power. And I'm shouting louder to compensate for the loss of power. I had more power when I was younger. And now I'm losing this power. And I'm also starting to move towards the next stage of grief after bargaining and anger. I'm moving now towards fear and that impending death that's coming. I know my time is running out. I'm slowly coming to terms with that. And that means fear, neediness, demanding more of my wife's attention, et cetera, et cetera. So part of this process is also that his own team and cabinet, which dearly adored him, probably the junior, younger staff that believed in the BS. They believed that this guy was going to be the savior of the world, that he was going to fix America. They really believed this stuff, And so What happened was that they went also into a state of denial where they simply could not accept the fact that their Superman was a human being, that he was sick, that he was dying, that he was showing loss of his cognitive function, that his cardiologist is concerned about the cankles and has limited his flights. Most cardiologists will limit flights to under 4 hours when you see this kind of mix of health problems. And so, yes, he can fly to Pennsylvania. It's an hour and a half from DC, or he can fly 2.5 hours to Miami, but he's not going to be able to be doing any overseas trips. And that's a problem if you're thinking about Donald Trump's future. So that chaos and coming to terms, and when we talk about the end, I think that it all comes to a head right before Christmas. And what will be after Christmas, I can't tell you, but I can tell you that an end happens in December. And it could be that everyone comes to accept the truth of Donald Trump's health and that he cannot serve, he cannot fly. He's meeting with Netanyahu in Miami December 27th, I believe it is. And that's because Miami, I believe, is where he should stay, because this kind of brutal weather that's moving into DC is not good for his health, considering the fact that he has congestive heart failure, circulatory problems. He doesn't need to be in extreme cold. Most cardiologists would think it a great idea that he spend his winter in Miami and not fly. And so it's appropriate that Netanyahu is coming to him in Miami, which will reduce the amount of flying he has to make, amount of flights he has to take. The other thing we talked about for January, the new year, but starting with December, is unusually cold weather as the this polar cold starts to move in, and this would deeply affect parts of the Northwest, middle of the country, and parts of the East Coast as well. It goes in and it comes up like this. So what happens is that more than half the country could be under freeze alerts, and that's going to put pressure on FEMA this month. And so be sure and check and take care of everybody close to you. I also predict that the markets are going to be volatile. They're going to be all over the place with people, with lots of selling and buying right before Christmas. I think we're going to hit some kind of major event around December 15th. I'm getting December 15th. A major event is going to be happening that is going to impact the market. So that would be next week, Monday. And so expect the markets to be extremely volatile after the 15th based on market news and changes from the Feds, where they have been dropping interest rates. Could see some more activity in terms of houses selling as well. The main spiritual message from the remote is chop wood, carry water. Before enlightenment, chop wood, carry water. After enlightenment, chop wood, carry water. If what is going on around you in this chaos does not directly affect you and you cannot help, it is better for you to step back, hunker down for a long winter's nap, keep yourself frugal, be optimistic about the future, but chop wood, carry water. Don't change much from your overall routine. Keep yourself frugal. If you think you can help at a local level, whether it's through volunteer work or social justice campaigns or working on housing, anything at a local level, please do so. We're not saying that you should be apathetic or indifferent about the plight of America right now. What we are saying is don't throw yourself in front of a moving ambulance. Don't be a looky-loo. Don't go looking for trouble. This is because we're entering into a very frantic time as we have to come to terms with the fact that the president is sick and he cannot serve. That is happening between January and March. But I think this guy is out in December, in the sense that we could see him basically semi-retired by December. going to Mar-a-Lago, refusing to leave, not being able to fly, cutting engagements. So he's basically a semi-president, pseudo-president. How long can that go on before calls in Congress for this man's removal and for accountability about his health crisis? But it ends in December. So we'll know more about what that means and why Spirit said, and I feel very strongly it ends in December. So I think what's going to happen is we're going to see the Epstein dumps coming in December, and I think we're going to see huge exposés about more corruption and more health challenges that make it obvious that we're in an emergency, and the denial that leadership in the GOP is currently in is not good for the overall health of the country. So for that reason, you are being advised to not let this consume you, because it's not something that you can control, and the people that can control it will take control of this. Now, a lot of people are upset that I said that J.D. Vance will most likely step into position as the next president, the 48th president of the United States, and that is because the GOP knows what is coming. The older statesmen are not in denial about Trump's health, and so they must prepare for Plan B. And Plan B is that if the president, for whatever reason, cannot fulfill his duties, the runner-up, right? No, the vice president takes on, just like in the case of Miss Universe. So the runner-up gets to wear that crown. And so, not that J.D. Vance is the runner-up, but he is the VP. And so the Constitution states that when the president cannot serve for whatever reason, his term will be carried out and completed by the VP. Barring some kind of miracle, I don't see the power being taken away from the GOP until the elections of 2026, which look pretty horrible. Both in the Senate and the House, they're very likely to lose seats. So if they want this nightmare to be less horrible for them, it would be wise for them to talk honestly about removing Donald Trump. But for you and for me, it's chop wood, carry water. We are going to be fine if we take care of the leaky roof, if we take care of our high cholesterol. Are you taking a statin? Red rice yeast doesn't work anymore because they've removed monocolin K. Is that what it's called? The active ingredient that reduces gas. Isn't the FDA wonderful? They went in, found the active ingredient in red rice yeast that lowers cholesterol and removed it so that people would have to be on statins. Yes, I know. It's so unfair. So the point is that is what you should be focusing on. We're entering into a wood horse year, and that is rapid change. Also remember that the wood element is territorial, both in wands, but also in Chinese medicine and in Chinese astrology. So when we're treating the wood element, that's liver and gallbladder conditions could be coming up in the time of the horse. This is starting in late January. I often get questions, when does it start? It starts at Chinese New Year's, which usually comes around late January. I think something like January 20th, is usually when it comes in, that we see that shift in energy, which is going to be wood horse. So if you're born rat, it could be very difficult. Somebody had asked me, why does rat have an antagonistic relationship with horse? It has to do with observations in China of nature. And so when they would care for their horses and they would put feed in the barn, hay in the barn, it would attract rats that would have their babies and make nest in the barn, and it would make the horses skittish, and they would try and stomp because little things were crawling around that they couldn't see on their feet because of the nesting of the rats in the barn. So that is how the story got started. So but that is this idea that if you are a rat, you'll have an antagonistic position with horse. But furthermore, this is a wood horse. So when we think about wood in Chinese medicine, liver and gallbladder, it's about control and it's about anger. So watch emotions of control and anger. And in fact, when we look at the wands in the tarot, we find that it's associated with the sun element and the sun in astrology, but also the astral sun, which is yang, active and aggressive, and Mars, cardinal, fire sign, masculine in astrology, right? So when we look to that wand energy, that wood energy, we're talking about it being really aggressive this year. It's going to be real aggressive. What's coming up? And a lot of action, like a running of a horse. Those are the things. So get out of the way. If you are a rat, don't scurry. Find another place to nest. Who else nest? In the barn is the rabbit. The rabbit will also go and find hay to keep the babies warm. And so there's a little bit also of an antagonistic relationship between the rabbit, these rabbit babies at my feet, right? And horses have stomped and injured rabbit babies, right? That give birth. So that's the relationship between rabbit and horse. But it seems to be a little bit less contentious, maybe because the rabbit is bigger and it can see, oh, you just want to stay warm and borrow my hay. But that's the story. It's quite interesting of that energy. So I am a water rabbit, so I tend to be cool. I'm just nesting here for a cold winter's nap. I don't need no trouble. I'll go get you some water. Calm down. So hopefully the craziness of that horse moving in, that my way or the highway, right? Wands are territorial. My way or the freaking highway. No, nest. Be your perfect rabbit self. Go bake cookies, take care of your cardiac health. Anything that heats you up, makes you too hot. Wood feeds fire. Fire is the cardiac system. So we don't want to do anything that's increasing our cardiac system. You want to make sure that you're also getting tested with your labs. If you feel like you've got too much wood, too much fire coming on. So we want to be looking at taking the medications your doctor recommends, taking care of your exercise routine. Calorie restriction is the best thing you can do for your heart. Too much food puts pressure on the system, right? These are common things. If you need a medical consultation, I am available for those. You can check the information below if you need a consultation. But the point is that the takeaway here is your focus should be about taking care of you, your health, your nutrition, your home, your bills. If you spend all your time freaking out about Donald Trump's health crisis, it means you're taking time away from getting on with your life and doing what you have to do to take care of yourself. And that's really what you should be focusing on now in December, which is because it's all coming out this December. I mean, that's what Spirit says. So let's just go with the ride and enjoy. It's not impacting you directly. Work on what's impacting you directly. That means the local situation, what's going on. You can absolutely get involved with what's going on in the environment, etc. In your own town, your own neighborhood. Make sure everybody is checked on who's a senior, particularly with this major icy weather that's going to be coming in over the country over the next couple of months. All right, we're going to go ahead and take a look now at the month of December and see if we get any more information. Great to see you here. If you haven't liked, shared, and subscribed as we boldly march towards 100,000, hopefully we'll be able to do that. Oh, that was getting into my coffee. We'll be able to get to 100,000 by the end of the year. That would be awesome. I would love to get that little placard. It'll be ours to show the world. Wouldn't that be lovely? Let's do the empath's prayer. All right, the month of December. I want to call on white light protection for myself and this community as we ask permission from Spirit to access the Akashic records. We call on our spirit guides and our good angels to be with us. Please give us the clarity and the wisdom that is needed to empower all of us on our journey to make the best decisions for ourselves, our families, the planet, the people we love, but also to help those that we may have strife with. And together, collectively, we say, Amen. Let's go in. What do we need to know for the month of December? What is happening? in DC and the world. Let's see if we can get some triggers using these cards. We're anxious to know. Let's take a look. And moving into base position is the thief. Runs like a thief. The thief runs like a thief. So if you're seeing trouble, if you're seeing toxic relationships, if anybody is not treating you right, if you are seeing a red flag that this person is moving in and doesn't have a job and needs you to pay for the bills, any red flags, this is a helter-skelter card. It is the person who runs like a thief to get away from a situation. And it could also be a situation of theft. So we're looking at a possibility of a lot of shenanigans this month, and a criminal activity. A thief attempts to flee, and there you are. Be about your business, child. Be about your business, child. That is what our spirit guide, Miss Mabel, likes to say. The show had somebody come in, the name Miss Mabel, and kept saying over and over again, be about your business, child. What business is it to you? It was very much about this idea this guide speaks of, that Miss Mabel, you must be about your own business, child. If you spend all your time running around worrying about this man's business and that man's business, how is that going to profit you? How will that profit you and help you with your own financial concerns? And so at this time, you should be about your own business. It does not involve your own political inklings, if you're not running for Congress, or if you're not part of the campaign, or only don't only concern yourself with that which directly affects you, and start with your four walls. That is your number one priority, is your four walls. Can you pay your rent? Can you pay your utilities? Can you pay for your food? Can you pay for your transportation? Right? Worry first comes your four walls when you are about your business, because we all have a business to run, whether it's tarot cards or your own little happy family. You must always start with your first four walls, and then you can expand beyond your four walls. How is your house? How's the finances on your house? Can you pay that mortgage? Can you pay that rent? Can you pay those utilities? Can you pay that transportation? And can you pay for that food? Give an account and a reckoning. Now is the time for the account and a reckoning. You are headed into January. It is time to give yourself an account and a reckoning for your life. You must give an account and a reckoning. A journal, how much of your energy in the form of money is leaving you and how much in the form of energy is coming to you. The business of your life. You cannot be an effective ambulance savior to the world if you've got three broken wheels. And so the first thing you must do is become functional. So if you want to help other people, you must first become a functional person. You have to take care of those four walls, run from drama, and there's going to be a lot of drama. The first house, there it is. That's the card I was looking for. Anybody know what this card is? The Two of Pentacles is also known as the Swindler's card. It's the Swindler's card. It's when you swindle or con or move money from Peter to Paul. So again, just be very careful about catfishing. You are not having a deep personal relationship with a famous person. It's not real. If you haven't met him and he wants your money, be aware of catfishing, con artist. I'm so grateful this crap hasn't happened. I'm not really interested in dating. Maybe I'm not looking for love. So somebody's like, I love you to the best. Like, I don't have the energy. I've got a lot of research. So Two of Pentacles is connery, trickery. We could also be seeing this in government and other areas, but the thief attempts to get away with trickery and connery. And there it is. Also to be expected in this card reading is the Four of Pentacles, it's a frugality card. It's about pulling back and watching your coin. Beware, run from the thief, the flim flam man. The Two of Pentacles is the flim flam man. Interesting thing about this particular card is the fact that he's wheeling and dealing and he's moving those coins like a juggler. But also makes me think of the person that plays with the, the walnut shell. Watch your coin. What is above us? A new beginning and a new horizon over the country starting in spring of 2026. But for now, be about your business and be firm in your own mental health. Anything you can do to take care of your own mental health is advised at this time. When we think about things that are good for the mental health, we think about everything that is good for the heart. What is good for the heart is good for the brain. So we want to increase oxygen, make sure you're eating plenty of plants. Take away the oil. There's no need for animal fat or oil in your diet other than moderate amounts of olive oil. No, consuming high amounts of coconut oil is not good for you. Regarding omega-3s, whether from a vegan source or from, omega-3s from cold anchovy, sardines, and salmons is the best oil because you want to keep your ratios high of your omega-3s to your omega-6s in order to keep the blood from being at risk of coagulation. But you can see a heart health here or health issues here. You have a 10 of cups. So your focus for the coming month is, to heck with this, man. I got to get my heart, if anything's going to take me out, it's my own irresponsibility towards my own finances and health. But that is your commitment. Your commitment is good old-fashioned healthy living. Heart attack, heart issues, heart constraints is another thing over the nation. The weather is changing, and people with congestive heart failure do tend to have a harder time in the winter. It's vasoconstrictive, and it's also difficult for such people to keep themselves warm. They often have diabetes as well, and so it can lead to problems with diabetic neuropathy if you're out in the cold. So I would say this is going to be a difficult month for Donald Trump. People at high risk of heart attack could be having problems. Over the issues of finances for the month of December, major changes are coming to the nation. Major changes are coming to the nation economically. We will start to see more houses being sold because of the Fed dropping. Sometime around February, we'll start to see the housing market starts to take off again. Take care of your own business and don't stress. As long as you are taking care of your health, living a moderate lifestyle, living as frugally as you can, you should be fine for the month of December. And for the year overall, avoid drama whenever you can. Seek a balanced and peaceful life. Pursue things that put you in a good mental state and can serve the next generation. So think about your legacy. We are all called to come to earth to create a legacy, whether we are forgotten in history or not. This shouldn't deter us from the work we need to do in the world, whether it's raising our children or creating peace communes in Gaza, whatever you've been called to do in service to the world. Let your focus now be on your legacy and the things that make you and your family happy to be together. Keep your head about you with the Emperor in the third house. Avoid drama in the coming month and year, and trust that the universe is going to take care of you if you take care of yourself, and that all will be well in the country. Major shifts happening now in December, and I feel a complete overhaul both financially and possibly politically in DC, with many people leaving and new people coming in. I think Donald Trump's health problems are going to get worse, and I think it's going to be very difficult to get him to leave Mar-a-Lago, given the direction his health has taken. All right. I want to thank you all. Oh, people had asked about Pete Hegseth. I'll do a quick throw. I think that he will be asked to resign because Trump feels that his legacy was blemished. His legacy was blemished. And so Donald Trump is extremely angry at Hegseth for taking what he felt was a perfect legacy and tarnishing it. So he's extremely angry at Hegseth for what he has done, which, he's raging at Hegseth. And that tells me that Hegseth has to go because the buck stops with him. Hegseth will be controlled, contained, and possibly removed. He's got an 8 of swords in his 7th house, and that would indicate that he's basically on paper duty. He may have been relieved of his duties, or he may be under some kind of voluntary probation, and there's the thief's card, attempting to get away with it. But he is going to be grounded, and then there's an issue of a possible investigation and or court case, and the final outcome is that his career is over. Yes, this is the thing that brings down Pete Hegseth, and we can expect him most likely to be handing in his resignation possibly within the next month or two, given how horrible these cards are. And you can see those for yourself. All right. Well, that was fun. Hope everybody had a good time with me today. If you're trying to get in for a reading with me or you need an intuitive medical consult, I'm Dr. Whimsy Anderson. You can find all that information below this video. Treat yourself right in the coming year. Get yourself on a good program. Trust yourself. Trust your intuition. Be about your business, child. And you should be able to come through this year of the horse unscathed. All right. Be kind to all so that all will be kind to you too. God bless. Peace out. We'll see you next time, everyone. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. I'd really appreciate it. Much love.